Hello, my name is Josephine Watts. I am an RTI specialist, response to intervention specialist from the Norfolk Public School District. And I'm going to give you a brief book talk today about this outstanding book, Locomotion. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the author, Jacqueline Woodson. She was born in Columbus, Ohio, raised in Greenville, South Carolina, and also raised in Brooklyn, New York. She's a prolific author. She's won very many awards for her writings, which includes the Margaret A. Edwards Award for Lifetime Achievement. She's won the Coretta Scott King Author Award, National Book Award nominations she received as well. And also she, if I mention the Newbery Honors as well. But she has won various awards for many books that she's actually has written, also written titles such as The Miracles Boys, which is one book, another book that I've read that was absolutely outstanding. She currently lives with her family in Brooklyn, and in addition to writing, she enjoys spending time with her family, sewing, spending time with her friends as well. So about Locomotion, in this book, Jacqueline presents Lonnie Collins' motion, also known as Locomotion. And in his own words, at 11 years old, he tries to sort out his emotions when he begins living with his new foster mother. And he also has a sister, and he's separated from his sister as a result of a very tragic event that he writes about in his poetry as well. You have to find out what that is when you read. He is encouraged by his fifth grade teacher, Ms. Marcus, to write poems about whatever he is thinking. And in his writing, he includes sonnets, he writes an epistle poem and haikus, but he mostly enjoys free verse. In his poems, he tells the truth about his life, his sadness, and his family, expressing his feelings about his loss, his pain, and his friends, his determination to be with his sister again as well. He includes in his free verse poems. His world is opened by his teacher, and she actually tells him that he is a poet. That is just how he uses such emotion when he writes, and expression and imagery. You can actually see the words on the page come to life. That's just how powerful his poetry is. So what I'm actually going to do is give you an example. I'm going to read one of his poems entitled December 9th. I wake up with my stomach bunched, throw up 2 times. Miss Edna gives me 3 Tums, the spearmint ones, but the stomach pains don't go away, and I don't want breakfast. Not cereal, not oatmeal, not even pancakes. Miss Edna frowns, presses her hand against my forehead. Presses her hand to my forehead, fixes me a bed on the couch. It's December 9th, she says. I don't look at her. I just go back into the bathroom. Nothing but bitter stuff comes up, and tears. I hear Miss Edna calling her job, saying she won't be coming in. I hear her say, Dear Lord, remember me. I hear her putting water on to boil and smell the ginger she's chopping up to make me some tea. It's been 4 years, Miss Edna says to the Lord. How long will he carry this burden? I see my old house on President Street, the window frames from fire, black from fire, glass everywhere. I hear people screaming and crying. I see the firemen wearing oxygen masks and shaking their heads. It's cold out. There's water everywhere, and 2 of Lily's dolls burnt and wet on the ground. I hear Lily screaming for Mama, or maybe it's me. There's relatives down south who don't have room for us. There's church people who take us for a while, then pass us on to more church people until there ain't no more church people, just group homes where people come sometimes to bring us food and toys and read us books they wrote, then go home to their own families. There used to be 4 of us, Mama, Daddy, Lily, and me. At night we went to sleep. In the morning we woke up and ate breakfast. That was 4 years ago. I lean my head over the toilet bowl, and more of the bitter stuff comes. This poem, titled Lamont, Actually, Locomotion was writing this particular poem in class, writing his thoughts. And it reads, Lamont comes in mad on Wednesday. Miss Marcus makes believe she doesn't see him sitting over there with his arms folded, his face all scrunched up, staring out the window, his back the only thing facing front. Let's take out our poetry books, Miss Marcus says. I want to work on haiku again today. I don't like forms. I like free verse when you can write anything you want, any way you want. But Miss Marcus says there's a time for form and a time for free verse, which I think is a stupid, very teacher thing to say. I ain't writing no poetry, Lamont says. No black guys be writing poetry anyway. I already have my poetry book open, but I close it real fast. What about Richard Wright, Mrs. Marcus says, and Langston Hughes? Angel says, I know Richard Wright. He lives on my block. His mom's name is Mrs. Wright. I know Langston Hughes too, Angel says. I see a little smile on Lamont's face, but he's still sitting turned away from the whole class. Both of them died a long time ago, Mrs. Marcus says, but she's kind of smiling too. How's he going to be dead and still live on my block? Angel wants to know. He gives Mrs. Marcus a look, like she's lost her mind. Pablo died, Angel said. He got shot by somebody last year, but not Richard. Richard Wright was right there playing basketball last Saturday. He could slam dunk, but the rims bent so it didn't really count. Richard Wright, the poet, Miss Marcus says, wrote haiku. Langston Hughes, the poet, wrote all kinds of poetry. Richard Wright also writes novels. Whole books? I asked. I didn't know poets could write whole stories. Whole books, Miss Marcus says. Lamont doesn't say anything, but I see his head turn in front a little bit. He make a lot of money? Angel wants to know. Mrs. Marcus picks up a book off of her desk. He wrote because he loved writing, she said. That's what matters. Not if you broke, Angel says. So those are just two samples from poetry that Locomotion wrote in class. So I hope you'll find that this book is interesting and that you are eager to finish reading Locomotion. So what I want you to do now is turn to your neighbor and tell him or her what you think actually happens to Lonnie in this